Hello, I welcome you all in this presentation related with the subject principles of industrial engineering. And what we have seen that the organizational structures are developed uh, in such a way that the different functions groups are assigned the different kind of the responsibilities while giving the kind of the jobs and responsibilities they will be doing. It is also identified what will be the authorities, responsibilities and accountabilities related with the different positions. And when the number of functions and groups and divisions are working in an organization, they need to coordinate with each other for the smooth flow of the work, so that the activities are done more very efficiently and effectively in order to produce the goods and services which can satisfy the requirement of the customers. So, in this connection, as I have said, coordination is extremely important across the functions, groups, divisions and the different layers which exist in the organization. So, with regard to that, if we see what are the different ways through which coordination can be realized depending upon the size and the type of organization, coordination different kind of the approaches can be used for the coordination purpose. One is called direct coordination, in which the functional managers directly interact with the other managers. Functional managers interact with the other functional managers, other functional managers or other groups and divisions for the purpose of a smooth flow of the work or for getting the things done through others, other functional groups and experts. This kind of the approach may be good in case of the small organizations where very few number of the groups and divisions exist and the number of the people involved associated with the organizations are less. Then there is another one where the liaison. In this case, since there can be the different number of the functional functions and divisions in the organization. So, like say we have sales, manufacturing, maintenance, R&D, engineering, etc. So, these are the different functions. So, if it is required to interact across these functions, one manager from the each function is assigned the duty of interacting with other functions for a smooth flow of the work. So, there will be one manager in each function who will be interacting and coordinating the activities with the other functions for a smooth flow of work or information. Then there is a third type, third way by which the coordination is facilitated across the organizations is the teams. Teams means in this case a group of the people. Teams are made. Teams are developed having the representative from the different functions and they work together for resolving the common issues. Like sometimes the problem nature of the problem is such that it cannot be addressed by one particular function or the group. In that case, teams are developed to look into those issues where the different functions are involved, where inputs of the different functions are required to resolve the things, to do the job, so that the objectives of the organization can be realized. So, this is what we can see here, coordination through these three approaches: direct contact, liaison and the teams. So, the teams where the problems are to be resolved by the different groups, different functions, and the functions share their expertise. And in case of liaising, one manager in each function is given responsibility to coordinate with others, while in case of the direct contact, managers across the functions work together for a smooth flow of the work. Now, since we have in the organizational structures, the groups and the functions are developed to undertake different kinds of the jobs, and then authorities, responsibilities, accountabilities are identified for different positions, and then they coordinate with each other for a smooth flow of work. These are the three things which are associated with any organization. But any organization will be successful only if there is a trust among the different functions, groups and the people who are associated with the organization. So, they need to trust with each other. In absence of the trust, so absence of trust leads to the various difficulties and issues. So, what happens when the trust exists, when there is a trust between the different functions, groups and the people of the organization, the organization works very efficiently. Like when there is a trust, so first thing is that the existence of the problems and issues. We know that issues are everywhere in each of the organization. There will be different kind of the issues. So, these issues may be small or big one. These may affect the organization in a significant way or in a little way. So, as per the case. So, whenever since the problems are there everywhere in each of the organization. So, first when there is a trust, the managers associated with the different functions like functional managers and the project managers, functional or the project managers as per the type of the organization, when the trust exists, they acknowledge the existence of the acknowledgement of the issues, that these issues are existing, and then once the problem is acknowledged and it is identified that it exists, then they work together, they work on one to one basis, they sit together face to face and then they work to work together to resolve the issues which are existing. So, this is a very positive way. First acknowledge the problem and then to look into the ways by which it can be resolved. And third good thing which happens is when there is a trust in among the different functional groups, and that is that the functional managers and project managers, they try to anticipate the kind of problems and issues which can creep up in future. So, so they become proactive basically to foresee the kind of problems which can occur. So, those so existence or so their occurrence can be avoided by being proactive. So, proactive approach helps them to anticipate the problems and take the correct steps so that the occurrence of those issues and problems can be avoided. But when there is a distrust, the all problems in case of the distrust, the all problems and issues, uh, the existence of the problems and issues is not accepted or acknowledged. What is the meaning of that? They say that no, there is no problem, everything is fine. But the moment the problem creeps up, problem surfaces. So when problem surfaces, comes at the surface and its effects become apparent, then the functional and project managers start blaming each other. So blame game starts once the problem surfaces at the problem creeps up and comes at the surface and its effect becomes apparent. Then they will start they will start to say that the problem has been caused because of the inaction by others, not themselves. So this is the situation of the distrust. So most important for having the successful organization, so that it can really realize its goal and objectives effectively, the presence of the trust among the different layers of the organization, different functional groups and the different divisions, this is very important. Now, if we talk of the kind of the important thing in any organization which are done, if we talk any typical organizational structure, typical organizational structure involved in say manufacturing. So, at the top we will have the stockholders who have invested the money. Then there will be vice president, president, and then there will be the different directors like this, which will be sorry, here we have the directors, board of directors, board of directors, then president, vice president, GM, etc. And then there are different functional different functions like sales, then legal, then finance, then manufacturing, then R&D, engineering, and then we can say very commonly known as human resource, HR or personnel. So, these are the very commonly used functions in a typical organizational structure, and these will be taken care of by the different managers and the other subordinate staff in each of the functions. What is the typical role? Because these kind of things will be there in almost all types of the organizations and industries. There may be a difference in the kind of number of layers which exist and the way by which authorities and responsibilities are fixed. So, if we want to see the role which is performed by sales. So, the sales function will be doing number of activities. For example, they will be doing the market research to see what should be the strategy of the product and pricing in future, or what kind of product should be launched in future, what kind of iterations and modifications should be done in the existing products. So, market research is one. Then advertisement, advertisement in order to increase the demand, in order to increase the sale volumes of the product or of the service. Advertisement is uh, is undertaken through the different means. It may be internet, it may be print media, it may be electronic media, like the radio, television, etc. Then we have the pricing as per the policy of the organization, whether the pricing will be competitive or the pricing will be aggressive, so that it gives the more aggressive competition to the competitors. Then apart from this, distribution, so that whatever product and goods and services are being provided by an organization, they are made available to the different sale points, to the dealers, retailers. Basically, idea is how effectively and easily it is made available to the customers. Then important aspect is the customer service. Customer service, this is to look after the after sales service, after sales service, and then to look into the complaints of the customers. This is very important, because after purchasing the product, if the customers are not given the required service, then they will become dissatisfied and they will move on to the different kind of the product subsequently. Then there is a legal function which is primarily related with the industrial laws, and like the filing patent, if these are, if the work is being done like mostly in the medical field, and in case of the technology intensive organization, this kind of the breakthrough technologies are developed. So, the patents need to be filed to protect the business interest and professional interest. Then there is a finance. Here the one is like treasurer. Here treasurer, basically role of this is to see the kind of the credits, debts, and the liabilities, liabilities associated with the organization, and to take consider the account is the another aspect related with the finance, another activity related with the finance. Then the kind of the loans and credits to be taken, then the taxes which are to be filed as per the law of the land, like the GST or the income tax, etc. Then there is like the budget control. This is important aspect, is about the allocation of the capital resource, to see where which kind of the investments or diversification should be done for realizing the goal and vision of the organization. Then we have the manufacturing. Under this like work manager or plant manager, responsible for so many things being done in the organization, including the maintenance, the planning, the production, all those things. So, here production planning and control, maintenance, operation, all manufacturing related activities. Then there is a method study or the work study, setting standard, setting of the standard of the performance, all those things will be falling under the manufacturing. Then we have the engineering. Engineering function basically is involved in design of the products, modification of the existing products, designing of the new products, or the modification of the existing ones, or incorporating the suggestions, benchmarking of the product with the competitors, so that it can be improved in much better way. Apart from the designing of the new products or the modification of the existing ones, the development of the prototypes, their testings, and suitability to launch the product so that it is suitable, so that it can be produced and launched for the customers. Then there is R&D. In case of the research and development, it under this basically it works in most of the organization, it works for resolving the technological issues related with the product or manufacturing. Another role is like development of the newer technologies, These may be in form of like breakthrough technologies, and so that basically idea here is to produce more and more using the lesser inputs, using the breakthrough technologies, quality, so that quality is enhanced and the cost is reduced. This is the idea behind the R&D. And then we have the personnel or HR, human resource. So, the main activity related with this is like the hiring or recruitment of the staff. This is one. Then record keeping of the staff. Then looking after the wages and incentives, the salaries and the incentives. Then there is the training of the manpower which is there, and then looking after the welfare of the personnel's medical facilities, recreational facilities, medical facilities, etc. Also maintaining the labor relationship. So, these are the different functions and the kind of the roles which are provided by the different functions. So, now if we see as we have seen that the typical organizational structure has the stockholders, then board of directors, and then vice president or president, then the different functions like the sales or the finance, legal, manufacturing, R&D, engineering, HR, and then other subordinates and number of people in each of the functions. This is the traditional, or we can say the classical organizational structure as per the size and the kind of product and services being given by the particular organization. There may be clubbing, combining, and that there may be different number of layers. But this kind of the structures have survived for more than 2 centuries. There is a reason behind this, that in early days of the industrialization, each organization was manufacturing fewer products. Means the number of products being manufactured by them were limited in terms of the variety. So, less variety was there in the beginning. So, there may be just 1, 2 or 3 product lines which were comparatively easier to maintain. Fewer number of persons, manpower was less, so fewer, it was completely easier to maintain the few number of persons or less manpower. Very few organizations were there in each product category. So, the competition was also less. So, these things were in favor actually. The competition is less, manpower is less, the product varieties are less, and because of that there were less conflicts, and then we can say the volume of the units which were produced, because the economy was not that strong in the early days. So, the number of purchasers were also less, and that is why the volumes or the number of units which were manufactured were also less. Gradually the economy is improved, the demand grew, and that led to the increase in volume and the number of units that were required to be manufactured. So, because of these favorable things, our classical organizational structures have survived for more than 2 centuries. But later on, increasing requirement and demand regarding the variety, increasing volume, fast change, increasing change in the design and technologies, increasing change in the taste of the customers, increasing competition. All these things have forced rather organizations to evolve in such a way that they can offer the quality products to the customers at low cost, increased quality and low cost products, and that too these products which are lesser in number, large in variety, these are not going to survive in the market for long. So, to deal with these changing conditions, the organizations have been forced to evolve to satisfy the need of the customers of the current day. Now, I will summarize this presentation. In this presentation, basically I have talked about the way by which coordination can be realized across the functions, and what are the typical roles performed by the different functions in an organization, and what is the typical classical organizational structures and why they have survived for so long, and now there is need to change in the classical organizational structures. Thank you for your attention.